Hey guys, just going to film a quick video here. It's been a while. I've been really good. Unfortunately, I've been staying home and I haven't been spending money. I've been saving up because there was a trip planned that me and some of my friends were going on to Denver. And so I just wanted to save some money up, so I had it to spend in Denver. And luckily, they had lots of good bookshops and miscellaneous comic book stores that I could pick up some really cool things in. So I'm going to go over what we picked up this weekend when we were in Denver, and then I'm going to go on into a nice little surprise that I was given at the end of the weekend. I have the best friends and the best fiance ever, and I love you all guys. So this is a shout out to them because this whole weekend would not have been possible without them. So we are going to start with some books. Now, I was really lucky, and there were several that I was looking for that I happened to randomly come across in these used bookstore, and they had a massive selection in some of these stores. One of them was Kilgore's. I picked up some really good ones there. Which was next to a really good restaurant called the Jelly, I believe it was Jelly Cafe or something. We had breakfast there, really good. But they had a really good selection of Stephen King books there. So I did spend some time there and some money there as well. And I was able to pick up the Dark Tower Concordance. Now this is the single book. It's not the one that's split up into two. Now I do have a part two of this one. I was looking for part one and then I came across the whole thing together, so I just couldn't pass it up. So very excited to get that into my collection. The next one is 11/22/63. Now I already have one of these, but mine is the smaller Hulu miniseries cover, and this one's the bigger one that actually opens up on the alternate newspaper. So that was a really cool find. I was super excited about that. Then I also picked up It, another copy of It. I've been looking for this one, but it's a UK edition, so it's not too often to come across one of those. So I was pretty excited when I came across it. And yes, definitely going into my It collection. You know I'm a huge It fan. And then, these I like. They're hardbacks, but they're not the full hardback. And I don't think these are actually called turtlebacks. I think the turtlebacks are a little smaller. This one's a bit bigger. It's different seasons, and it's the solid piece. It's an Everbind book, so I'm not exactly sure what that is, but yeah, I'm pretty excited to add that one to my collection. I always like the different sized ones and the different covers, and that's pretty cool. Then another store we stopped at was called the Emporium, and we stopped in Omaha, Nebraska. That's where that's located. And they had a pretty decent Stephen King collection there as well, but they've got something for everyone. They had Star Wars, Star Trek, Care Bears, Muppets, you name it, they had a section for it. And I would recommend checking out the Emporium. And then while you're there, right across the street is a restaurant called the Monster Bar. And oh my God, that is a so cool place. I posted some picture on Facebook. If any of you are my Facebook friends, you can check it out. But they had full-size Pennywise. They had a Slimer from Ghostbusters, Dracula, Frankenstein. They had some really cool artwork on the wall. The food was really good too, and big portions. So if you're in Omaha, check it out. But I was able to pick up at the Emporium some movies. Now I hadn't had the Mangler. I've been looking for it. I vaguely remember it. It's got I believe it's Robert Englund. No, yeah, Robert Englund, and it's made by Toby Hooper. I'm not exactly. I want to say I remember it, but I don't think it was really that great. But I'll have to maybe do a movie night and come back and refresh my memory on it. But I was super excited to see that. I hadn't come across one of those in the wild. And then Firestarter. Now I already had Firestarter on VHS, but of course, I can't pass up another version, and I still have to get some friends together to watch some Stephen King movies. So now it's a little easier to play DVDs than it is VHS. Now these next ones I was super excited about because they were the newer ones that I hadn't been able to find in a used bookstore in my local area. So the fact that I found them in Denver made me really excited. It's Elevation. Still haven't read this one, but it's got the raised print for the name. It is such a tiny little book. I like the different size books, so very excited about that. And then The Institute. And I was excited to come across this one because this one I actually am going to try and sit down to read because I really like it. From what I've heard, it kind of sounds like it might have a similar kind of vibe to like The Shop and Firestarter, and maybe there's a way that they're connected. I don't know. But I'm putting that on my to-be-read pile. The next one I got was a 4 Past Midnight, and this series run. I'm not exactly sure. It's the Simon and Schuster, but the thing I like about it is you can tell it's never even been opened. So somebody had it, didn't ever read it. I'm definitely happy to add that one to my collection. Four Past Midnight has some of the best stories, I think. I really enjoy them. Let's see. Library Policeman, The Langoliers, Secret Window. I mean, who can go wrong with that? While we were at the Emporium, I also picked up a couple other ones there. I picked up The Green Mile, and I believe it's in Greek. I tried to Google translate it, and part of it translated, part of it didn't, but I think it's Greek, but I'm not 100% sure. If somebody else out there knows, please let me know in the comments below. But super excited about coming across that. Anytime I find a foreign edition in the wild, I just scoop it up because I just love adding to my collection. And the covers, they do such cool covers in. Granted, that one's not super exciting, but they do such cool covers on some of those foreign editions, especially the French ones. The next one I picked up is a copy of Firestarter. Now, this one is also in pristine condition. I had to grab this one. The one I have, it's sentimental to me, but it also has some damage on it. Somebody took a black pen and traced out all the fire on it, the pages that somebody scribbled on it. But I'm super excited to get this one because there again, it was the first Stephen King book I ever picked up and fell in love with the cover in my mom's library. And then it's one of the first ones that I ever read, so it's definitely on my top 10. Oh, excuse me. Then what else I found was, this is cool. I always like picking up the anthologies, so I picked up Gallery of Horror with Stephen King, Ramsey Campbell, other authors, Charles L. Grant, edited by. So I was excited to get that. It's got a story in there I'm not familiar with called Nona. That's the one that King wrote. I want to say, I think I have that in one of my magazines, one of the Playboys that he maybe wrote it in. I'll have to go back and check that, but it sounds familiar, but I don't believe I read it. Then here's another one I was super excited to find. It's one of the newer ones. It's hard to, I haven't come across it in the wild yet. This was the first time, but it's Stephen King and Owen King's Sleeping Beauties. So the cover's a little banged up, but you know, I paid $9 for it. First time I've ever seen it in a used bookstore, so I just grabbed it. Then we have Skeleton Crew, and this one, the spine's a little rough, and it looks like maybe it has some fading. But the thing I like about this one, I have this one, but mine is the one in the yellow font. So this is the one in the red, and it's from the #1 bestseller. I believe the other one says like from the author of some book, like Shining or It. So I was glad to come across that one. And then it's another one that goes along the vein of Four Past Midnight. It's one of these Simon and Schuster run, The Dead Zone. There again, it looks like nobody ever read it. Picked that up for a really good price, so super excited. I have a lot of Dead Zone. I'm a big fan of that one. Then that's it for books. Now I'm going to get into the miscellaneous. Excuse me, I've talked too much today. I'm going to get into miscellaneous figures, other items that I picked up, and souvenirs. So we went to Mile High Comics, which is actually, I thought it was just the United States' biggest bookstore, but apparently it's actually the world's biggest bookstore. At least that's what their sign says. And I don't think they'd lie. So very cool. If you're in Denver, you should definitely check out Mile High Comics. There's also a cat there. Be careful. She has claws, but she's cute and sweet. So, but I was able to pick up these Lego minifigs. And I got the new Pennywise and the old Pennywise. So it's kind of, see if you can kind of see them. So I was excited to pick those up. I thought that was cool. They were fairly cheap. It was only a couple bucks, but I'll work them into my collection. And then along the lines of it, I finally came across this one. I've only seen it online. I have the Monopoly, but now I have Clue. So pretty excited about that. Might have to organize a game night. And then this last figure I got, I picked it up at Target. Nothing super special. Probably have it in your area as well. But it ties into the next part and the surprise part of our trip. We have the Grady twins from The Shining. Ooh. And so The Shining is actually based on a hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. And it's the Stanley Hotel. Stephen King stayed there in room 217 and got the inspiration to write The Shining. And the hotel is supposed to be haunted. Well, we were staying in Denver, and my friends told me that unfortunately there was a confusion with our booking, and so the last night we had to leave Denver and go to Boulder. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I always wanted to go to Boulder because it's got a Stephen King connection through The Stand. You know, I looked around, I did not find the Free Zone Committee, but so that's why I was excited to go to Boulder. Well, then we're like talking, and they're like, well, you know, we want to go see the mountains too, and it's not that far away. So why don't we just drive up there and check out the hotel? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So that morning we get all packed and we drive up and we drive through Boulder and we drive up to the hotel and we get there about lunchtime. And so we're going to have lunch. I'm geeking out, of course. I'm taking photos of everything, you know. Oh, look, it's Stephen King's picture on the wall. Oh, look, it's the ceiling in tinned copper. Oh, and so, you know, I was just a total nerd, which, you know, I totally admit. But we're after lunch, they tell me that we're actually not staying in Boulder. We're staying at the Stanley. And wow, that just blew my mind. This just was like something on my bucket list that I didn't even think I'd ever get a chance to do. So I was just super excited about that. And my fiance John, he he laughed so hard at me. It's just like the look on your face. You know, you were like aglow and in shock. And I'm like, I was in shock. And so we check in and we go to their room, and their room is literally right above 217, the room directly above where Stephen King stayed. So I'm like, that's really cool. But they actually reserved for us one of their spirited rooms, room 401. And they also booked me on a ghost tour. That was really super cool to go on. You learned a lot of history about the hotel. You should totally check it out if you're there. It wasn't too expensive, but it was definitely worth it. It takes about an hour of your time. The food at the restaurant was excellent. It was really cool to stay there and just the ambiance. You know, they really hype up the ghosts and the Stephen King connection. And I learned stuff too. Like I didn't know the Stanley Hotel was named after one of the brothers who created the Stanley steamer cars. So, you know, that's where he got his money. So that's very cool. Well, in the room that we stayed in, 401, it's also the room where they filmed an episode of Taps, where a glass on a table shattered and a closet door opened. Um, Unfortunately, our experience was nothing too supernatural. There was a lady who knocked on our door at like 2 in the morning, not realizing I think people were in there. And then her friends were like hushing her and trying to move her along down the hall. So I think she might have been a little bit tipsy. Other than that, the room was a little bit hot. The air conditioning was having trouble keeping up. Granted, it was in the middle of a heat wave, so I give them a little bit of slack on that. But I just really had a blast there, and it was such a good time, and I owe it to my friends. It's not something I would have been able to do on my own or ever. So John, Giselle, Jesse, you guys freaking rock. And so while we were there, we picked up some souvenirs. And of course, I picked up room 217. Going to probably mount that with my Shining collection. I picked up a couple of postcards. And a bookmark. And then I also kept they gave us a printout of where all the ghosts were supposed to be and the description of what ghost was in our room. So that was pretty cool. And then randomly, you know, when we had lunch, they brought out individual wrapped bottles of ketchup. So I brought home a Stanley Hotel bottle of ketchup. So it's my ghost ketchup. Weird, I know, but it's me. So yeah, we didn't have any experiences, but I did actually learn some stuff about it. Like the movie The Shining was not filmed there. It was actually filmed in a hotel, I believe, in Oregon, and in sound stages in the UK. But the miniseries in '97 that King actually wrote and had a bigger part in and made it the way he wanted it to be made was actually filmed at the Stanley. And that was really cool history. And then they actually have a hedge maze now because they didn't before. That was just for the movie. And people just kept coming out and asking about the hedge maze and where's the hedge maze. So they finally had one designed and put in 2015. So that's really cool. Even though in the book it's not a hedge maze, but English. Hedge maze. It's a topiary garden, but you know, whatever. But you know, they even had the movie playing in the little waiting room while you were waiting for the tour to start. So that was pretty cool too. So if you get the chance to stay at the Stanley, you know, if you're a big Stephen King fan or a big Ghost fan, it's probably worth it. If you're just looking for a super comfy hotel room, maybe not so much. You know, it was really kind of hot. Our sink didn't drain right. And it was lacking some of the amenities, but it was definitely worth it for a big Ghost and King fan like me. So I highly recommend it if you like that kind of thing. So I hope everyone is staying safe, and I hope you keep reading.